Hey everybody, welcome back to the Nidus Anarchy series. My name is Adam, CIO and co-founder of Nidus, and today we're going to talk about the Y Combinator list that just came out of all the types of companies they're willing to invest in. For those of you that don't know Y Combinator, they are legacy in the IT startup base. They're kind of the de facto first incubator for startups where they'd put in a bunch of seed money, have a bunch of people hack some stuff together for a few weeks, months, get together a bunch of seed round investor people to dump money into them and build them up into startups. To give you an idea of some of the major companies that have come out of Y Combinator and why every techie, especially if you're in your early 20s and you're looking to build a startup, Y Combinator is like, the pinnacle of where you want to go. So Airbnb, Stripe, Dropbox, Coinbase, DoorDash, Reddit, Instacart, Gusto, like all these companies, these are just some of them. But a lot of these huge companies all came out of Y Combinator. So if you can get your company into Y Combinator and you can get funding, you have a really good chance of becoming the next unicorn. So when Y Combinator puts out their list of the startups that they want to invest in, it's kind of a big news because this is basically saying these are the types of companies that Y Combinator feels are going to change the world. These are going to be the next disruptive companies. These are going to be the next technological advances that are going to be coming in the future. So they have a really good track record at knowing where to put money. So when the list comes out of the types of businesses that are important, everyone tends to listen. So we're going to go through, there's 9 sections and a couple subsections. We're going to go through all of these because if this is the future of IT is how I view it. And it's pretty cool to see where it's going because I'm in most of these. So government software, this is number 1. So they're seeing government software as being hugely important. And with the new Doge group coming, or whatever it's going to be called, the Department of Government Efficiency with Musk and Vivek running it under Trump's new administration, they're going to be looking to make the government more efficient, strip down people, and put in software in place. So the fact that that is going to be a major just office in itself to automate and make the government offices more efficient, that's going to happen through software. So the number 1 thing from Y Combinator is going to be government software. So in here we have AI software to automate government administrative tasks. That's the number 1 bullet that they have. Why? For exact same reason I said. When they go in and can all these people that are just pencil pushers doing forms and stuff that's just archaic and should have been automated decades ago, AI automation is going to just leaps and bounds replace massive amounts of people, entire departments within the government. Number 2 is target large scale operations like form processing, application reviews. Again, this is like going to the DMV. Like, can we please AI automate the DMV? I know Ian would love that. Build solutions for citizen-facing services, DMV, permits, licenses. Exactly. That's the whole point, right? Is everyone knows. It's like, oh, you have to do something with the government. Oh, I need to get a passport. Oh, it's going to take months to get. This shouldn't take months. Unless you're on some weird terrorist watch list, you shouldn't take months to get a passport. It shouldn't take 4 or 5 trips to the DMV just to get new license plates for your car. And it does. And we all know this. And we all just assume it's like, oh, it's just a fact of life. But if any business, if any company operated the way that any government office works, it would be out of business before it even got customer number 1. Like, think about it. If what company out there could act like the DMV and still be operating today? None. No one would go. It's because you have to. You're forced to. And therefore, these people just don't care because they're like, oh, I'm locked into the job. I get my pension. Well, now with this new efficiency office and AI automation software and with Y Combinator pushing it, I think we're going to see some big changes coming up, all for the better for us as citizens, being able to get stuff faster and deal with less headache. I think this is going to be pretty amazing. Number 2, public safety technology. Advanced computer vision, develop privacy preserving surveillance. This is interesting because I'm actually working on a project about this. I'm not going to go into too much detail right now, but I think that this is going to be massively important in the future. So advanced computer vision, we're all very familiar with computer vision, right? So this is going to be the whole thing where you can upload a picture into AI and it can detect what everything is, or forget uploading a picture, but more realistic, especially what they're talking about here, is AI monitoring real-time video streams. And the enhanced part is going to be able to detect things better, faster, larger resolution, right? Because even though like you can upload a picture, you can have a stream of your phone and it can detect it, and it's actually pretty expensive. I actually was working on this for a different little side project that I was working on which was, I remember the glasses hack where I said I wanted to have real-time video and then detect all the faces. That's kind of what that's doing. But the real-time video processing and facial recognition, it was just too complicated, and it just wasn't fast enough to keep up. And the picture resolutions had to be shrunk down and flipped to black and white and all this kind of weird stuff they have to do to get it to be able to react in almost near real time. So what I wound up doing is just dropping it and just doing frames as opposed to the actual real-time feed. So if we can get to real-time 4K feeds, now you're talking real AI facial detection, even iris detection, ear recognition, all type of biometrics detection. It all sounds terribly scary when you say it that way, but that's where it's going. Now, the next part of this after the colon is the important part, which is develop privacy preserving surveillance, right? So you want surveillance, you want to feel safe, you want to know if there's a crime happening that you have it on camera and you can find that guy and, arrest him and whatever. But you also don't want your privacy. You don't want to be like, I don't want to be constantly recorded everywhere I go. So what if you could have video surveillance cameras in high HD 8K resolution doing real-time facial recognition on only something after a crime has taken place. Otherwise, everything's completely blurred out and you don't know what it is. Right? So there could be some really cool ways that this could take place, but that's the whole point of Y Combinator is they want people to come up with the really cool ideas, prove it out, and then they can find the investors that dump the tons of money behind it to build it at scale. So that one could be pretty interesting. Emergency response systems. Cut response times and improve coordination. This one's pretty cool too. And actually, I just watched a documentary last night about the new jail cells, I shouldn't even call cells, new jail complexes down in El Salvador, where El Salvador has, I don't know if you're familiar with what's going on down there, but El Salvador used to be a really dodgy country, right? Like super unsafe, massive gang problems. And in the past couple years, the president down there has just gone after the gangs, shut them all down. And what they did is they built these crazy, massively security complex jail cells where they basically said, once you're in, you're out, you're in, you're never coming out. And it's pretty crazy. I'm not going to get into that. But the whole point is, one of the things that they were talking about was the police force and how they're able to mobilize their police. And what they showed just for like a split second was just this giant screen on the wall where I think it was like the captain of the police or something. He's like, yeah, I can see where all of my police officers are at any point in time. I can see what they're doing, what they're interacting with. And it's just like little numbers on a map, right? All around the entire country. And then what he can say is he's like, yeah, and with this, I can see who's been where. They keep going to the same spot for some reason. They're there too long. What's going on? There must be an issue. And what he led to after that was, and with all this data, we're now piping this into these AI ML systems. So now the AI systems will tell us, hey, you know what, based on the reports coming in and where all the police are and whatever, it's determining where to position police for maximum effectiveness so this way you don't need as many people to do the job, because a lot of times police are patrolling areas where they're not needed. So with these new AI systems, they're able to coordinate where the police officers need to be to maximize their efficiency. So this is the type of stuff that's going to be kind of crazy to see. And it's crazy that you're seeing this coming out of El Salvador, right? Like, who would have thought that? Community safety platforms, bridge community police communication gap. That's going to be interesting. Transparency with police really isn't a thing at all. I'm not sure how well that's going to work out, but that's kind of the idea, right? Is maybe someone else can figure out a really cool idea. I'm not trying to solve all these answers, but this is where they see things needed. Why? Well, I think a lot of people have been frustrated over the past few years with how the police handle certain situations. And they want more transparency and real-time information. So if someone can come up with something really cool way to do that, awesome. Law enforcement efficiency tools, reduce paperwork, increase patrol time. Kind of like exactly what El Salvador is doing down there. So there's a lot of cool stuff there. Okay, number 3, U.S. manufacturing. Focus on automated manufacturing system using ML and robotics. This is going to be big. The ML, yes. Robotics, super yes. Robots have always taken over a lot of like the blue collar work. I grew up, outside Detroit, so everyone worked for one of the big 4 automotive. I mean, everyone in one way or another, you were in a way working for one of the big 4. And I remember when robots came in to replace people on the line and the strikes and everyone being pissed off and angry and everyone's going to be, I think we're going to see something like that, but on a much larger scale. Because instead of like one robot that can grab a thing and put it down and then do the weld, you're going to have these almost autonomous robots that can walk around and do pretty much anything that a human can do without crazy amounts of training. It will be able to infer and learn, and you can interact with it. So I think we're going to see a lot more of that on a much larger scale. And they're looking for people that are interested in this. So I think this is going to be a very, very big sector to get into. If you somehow have the ability to build robots, or if you can get a robot, which I think that's going to be, I think the big leap that's going to happen is when the first full robot, like the Tesla Optimus, comes out with an SDK. So once I'm not saying it is Optimus, but whichever one becomes, the first phone, right? So whichever first robot comes out with an SDK where you can actually do something, that's when you're going to see this industry just skyrocket. So it's going to be some type of open SDK and an affordable robot where, hobbyists can play with it, even if it's just like an arm or something, where the whole package will be less than $5,000, preferably less than $1,500. If you can get some type of a robot that you can control with an SDK for $1,500, it's going to explode. Because at that point in time, you're going to have all kinds of stuff going on in the world of robotics, and that's going to be huge. So this is going to be pretty cool. Follow Tesla's Gigafactory model for modern U.S. manufacturing. I don't really know much about the Gigafactory. I never really did any research, so that sounds cool. Target industries with strategic importance, semiconductors and batteries. This is going to be super important. Batteries, just because you'll notice there's a huge trend in bringing everything back stateside right now. Chip manufacturing, batteries, the lithium production, semiconductors. This is all because we need them in pretty much everything that we make, and we have no control over them. And without them, we're extremely limited. And the semiconductor one is really big. The coordinated attack on the San Jose power plant, also known as the Metcalf sniper attack, occurred on April 16th, 2013. In this incident, unknown assailants fired rifles at transformers at the Metcalf transmission substation in California. The attack caused significant damage to the electrical grid but did not result in power outages, as the grid operators were able to reroute power to prevent disruption. The attackers cut fiber optic cables in a nearby vault, severing some communication links, and then fired more than 100 rounds at the substation's transformers. The event raised concerns about the vulnerability of critical infrastructure and led to increased security measures for power facilities across the United States. Now, what's crazy about this is no one knew this even happened. This never reached the news. No one talked about it. And when I heard about it and was telling people, I was like, you're crazy. That's a conspiracy theory. Well, it's not. So something crazy went down, and you can actually see the videos and stuff online if you look for it. You'll see the guys, those like saws that cut through concrete. You'll see like some dude running up to the fence, just cutting through the chain and ripping that stuff open, cutting all the communication channels. There were, I think, like 2 or 3 coordinated snipers, like military expertise snipers positioned to shoot at these specific transformers, because I think they had like 2 of them, right? And they're huge, like these giant things. And we don't make them in the States. And if you want one, they take months, like 6 months or 18 months to get, or something ridiculous long time. And the San Jose power plant is what was powering pretty much all the data centers for Silicon Valley and a lot of San Francisco. So this was a massive, massive attack on the Silicon Valley's power infrastructure, where if they would have gotten that second transformer, all of it would have gone down for months. So this was pretty crazy. And the fact that it was really never covered by the news, I think was even crazier. But yeah, this was, if you look at the news, everyone was pretty much thinking it was some type of foreign military force that was trying to take down Silicon Valley, and they almost did it. So check that out. The 2013 Metcalf sniper attack. Cool. Anyway, let's get back to this. So Stablecoins 2.0. So if you're not familiar with stablecoins like USDC, USDT, stablecoins are the cryptocurrency where they're matched 1-to-1 to the US dollar. So if you have one USDC stablecoin, that will always equal $1 US in fiat currency. And the idea, there's a whole bunch of reasons for it, but the whole point is that you can basically buy, swap, trade from various cryptocurrencies, let's say Bitcoin into USDC, so you never have to go all the way back to fiat currency. There's a whole bunch of reasons for this. 2 of the biggest ones, one is like right now on Coinbase, I think you can get 4.8% APY for all of the USDC that you're sitting and holding. So let's say you have $1,000 in your bank account, it's not going to do anything, right? It's going to just sit there. But if you put $1,000 into Coinbase, into USDC, you're going to earn 4.8% on that while it's in there daily. Now, let's get into the trading part. If you trade a stable coin into something like Bitcoin, well, now you make that trade. Okay, cool. Now, when you sell the Bitcoin, you have to pay a capital gains tax on that whenever you flip that back into a fiat currency. So if you sell your Bitcoin and you go back into US dollar, well, whatever profits you made, you need to pay taxes on that. If you trade your Bitcoin into USDC, you're just exchanging one cryptocurrency for another cryptocurrency. So you're not really taking any profits. You're just converting one crypto coin to the other. I am not a financial advisor. I'm not a lawyer. And everything I said could be completely wrong. So do your own research on this. But what I'm saying is, if you look at Bitcoin, with it just hit what, like $93,000. Cryptocurrency is a legit thing. I'm 100% behind it, and a lot of other people are too. So the stablecoin industry is huge. It's also used for a lot of infrastructure and development within the crypto space. So there's a lot of good reasons. So Stablecoins 2.0, build business-focused stablecoin management platforms, develop easy integration tools for developers, and focus on cross-border payments and remittances. The cross-border payment is also very big. So think of it this way. If you want to wire $1,000 from the United States to someone in, I don't know, El Salvador, well, you can't just send the money, right? You got to send it. You got to go through SWIFT. It goes through all these money laundering things, and it goes between different countries, all the banking stuff that takes place. There's crazy amounts of fees. So sending money from one person to another across countries, massively painful. Tons of fees. It takes forever. There's all kinds of weird scrutiny and stuff in it. So it's a pain in the butt, and you have no option. And you sure can't send cash. Like, that is a big flag for a big no-no. But in the crypto world, like, let's say Bitcoin, if I want to send Bitcoin to someone in El Salvador where they use Bitcoin as a currency for their country, let's say I have some developer that I want to hire to do some work for me, and I want to pay him. Well, if I want to pay him internationally, there's all kinds of, like I was saying, all these fees and all this crazy stuff. But if he's like, yeah, you can just pay me in Bitcoin. Oh, okay, cool. Well, that's awesome. Well, let's say first off, if I want to pay him in Bitcoin, I pay him the Bitcoin, and there is a very small flat fee. It might take 15 minutes for the whole thing to be validated on the blockchain. But whether I'm sending him $1,000 or $1 billion, it's the exact same fee and an exact same amount of time to make that transaction. So that's why cryptocurrency is awesome. Now, where do the stablecoins come into play? Well, let's take right now. So a week ago, Bitcoin was at what? I think it was at like 82,000, 83,000, somewhere around there. I don't know. Where was it?
I'll look right now. Let's see. This is the cool thing about now having our second mic.
Right. So before the election, where was crypto? Like on the 4th.
Okay,
or
let's
Bitcoin
look at November 4th. We were at 67.
Okay.
We were closer to 68,000.
Okay, so we were at $68,000 on November 4th. Today's November 15th, and we're peaking up to like $93,000, somewhere around there. So massive change in price. Now, if I say, hey, I'm going to pay you X amount of dollars for the job, or X amount of dollars per hour, or whatever, and we signed a contract a month ago, and I got to pay him 3 months from now, or every other month, or whatever the duration is, the change in price is so volatile that if we agree on a Bitcoin amount, that value could be drastically different. If we agree on the US dollar amount, well, it could also change. And, there's fun things like that in different contracts. But if you just say, hey, look, we're going to do the whole thing in USDC, well, now it doesn't matter. Everything's done in crypto. It's all instant, and it's all relative to the exact same value that we currently agree to in our contract. So there's a lot of good reasons for that too, which is why I'm also big into the Web3 development stuff here at Nidus too. Okay. LLMs for chip design. This is going to be way bigger than number 5. I don't know if these are in order of most importance, but to me, this one's going to be even bigger. So we have ASIC and FPGA optimization tools using AI, target 5 to 100 times performance improvements, and focus on energy efficiency. So what does all this mean? So you know how we've done a lot of different talks about AI, right? Lots of it. Now, Grok with a Q, we go there all the time to show how fast they are. The reason Grok is so fast is because they have their own proprietary chips. They're called TPUs, and they're token processing units versus GPUs, the graphical processing units. So the GPUs right now are what's driving AI. So when you hear Elon Musk building this massive data center with like 100,000, 200,000 GPUs, and Meta building 100,000 H100 GPUs, and all these things, are pretty much all of them are coming from NVIDIA. That's because the GPUs they're wired specifically to where AI learning and inference can process way faster and better using a GPU than a CPU. Now, what people have figured out, like Grok, is like, well, hey, forget all the other stuff GPUs are for, because they're great for graphics and gaming and everything else, but if we do something like an ASIC, like Bitcoin mining, like ants and all those kind of fun things, where they're chips designed specifically for one thing, which is just to mine Bitcoin, or just to mine Ethereum, or just to mine whatever. Well, now they're designing chips to just do inference, just do modeling, just do training. And that will allow them to increase the productivity massively. So think of it like the difference between a CPU and a GPU, right? So like if we use a GPU, when we make a request into, let's say, ChatGPT, because they're running all on GPUs in the back end, we might get somewhere around, I don't know what, 60 tokens per second. But when we go into these TPUs, these chips made specifically for LLMs, we're getting somewhere up to like 1,200 tokens per second. So the difference is astronomical. So that's why there's going to be a large focus in this. And the other thing is like we were saying, is the reduction of power usage. Power is the key factor in AI training, right? Because everyone's doing this whole thing like we got to grow bigger, and so we can get smarter LLMs. So the more GPUs you have, the more training you can do. The more training you can do, the longer training you go, the smarter they get. All of this takes massive amounts of power, and it's just burned off into the ether. So if we can reduce the amount of power and increase the throughput of the tokens per second, that is an instant gold mine. I mean, you're talking people that are spending, like Musk just spent something like $4 billion just in GPUs. So if you could come up with a TPU, or who cares, call it whatever you want, but if you can come up with some type of a processor that performs 10% better with 10% less power requirements, instant win. They're no longer going to buy the GPUs, they're going to buy your things, right? So that's why I think there's going to be a huge focus on this coming up real soon, especially with all the chip manufacturing now moving back to the US. Number 6, Fintech 2.0. Build AI-first financial products without legacy constraints, target undeserved markets in insurance and wealth management, and focus on global payment solutions. I don't know much about Fintech, so I can't really talk too much about that one. Space companies. Again, another, like 10 years ago, and you're like, oh, hey, look, I think I'm going to start focusing on building space stuff. People would laugh at you. I mean, now you got SpaceX, you got Blue Origin, there's others, I'm sure there's other ones out there. There's only 2 that I know of. And obviously we all just follow SpaceX because we're all, it's awesome. But you can get satellites up in space. You can actually pay to have a satellite that you developed on a rocket shot up into space now. Like, that's a real thing if you really want to do it. Amazon actually has a service in AWS where you can play around with satellite stuff and control satellites and control your satellites with it and stuff. It's crazy what's out there. I was actually at DEF CON, and there was a guy talking about how they were building this mapping technology for real-time map inference with all these little tiny satellites that are about this big, and they're just putting like 1,000 of them up there in space just to do real-time mapping and photographic solutions of all around the world at the same time, so they can keep track of weather patterns and all kinds of crazy stuff. But anyway, the whole point is, doing space technology is not science fiction. It's not something that will happen far off in the future. It's happening now, and you can do it. It's really not that difficult and not terribly expensive considering what you're doing. So I think this is going to be pretty interesting. So capitalize on 10x launch cost reductions. Well, exactly what that is the fact that you don't have to pay NASA, who can't do anything nowadays, apparently. You can go to SpaceX and be like, hey, I want to put a satellite in space. And they'll be like, cool, here's the calendar. Which one do you want to be on? It's so different now. Build businesses around satellite applications. Also going to be huge, especially when you capitalize AI into it. You mix those 2 things together, it's going to be crazy what people come up with. Create infrastructure for routine space access. That's so far into the future in my mind, but it's not. I mean, SpaceX just saved all those people up in the space station. So there's real stuff that's going on in space right now. And if you want to have some real fun, if you look at the congressional hearing that just went place, and they're talking, yep, UFOs are real, aliens are real, here's all the government footage of it. Yeah, they've been lying to you the whole time. So I don't know, there's the great meme online right now as well. I didn't have UFOs are real on my bingo list for this year, but it's now added. AI aided engineering tools for number 8. So modernize CAD CAM with AI assistance, simplify complex engineering tools, and create accessible design validation tools. Focus on physics, simulation, and acceleration. I don't know much about CAD CAM stuff. I have a 3D printer and I'm horrible at it. So I'm not the best guy to talk about CAD CAM. I have read some really cool articles about how people have actually used AI to come up with different types of thrusting mechanisms, rocket parts, machine parts that twofold. One, were not designed by a human at all, that were just completely designed by AI to come up with models that we've never even thought of. And on top of that, they're 3D printed. So they're able to make physical structures that you can't carve. But with the whole thing of basically 3D printing metal parts and AI being able to make stuff with the understanding of that they could 3D print them, they're coming up with all kinds of crazy new physical pieces for things like rocket engines that are making them more efficient and cooler and all that kind of fun stuff. There's actually a really cool picture that I don't know if Musk put it up or not, but they show the progression of the Raptor engine from the first one to where it is now and how it's streamlined down. I guarantee you there's some AI building that's gone in there, but it's crazy to see that reduction in efficiency. It's pretty impressive. Number 9, which is the last one, 1 million jobs 2.0. And it's funny that this is the last one because I feel this is one of those things where it's like, okay, AI is going to wipe out so many jobs that we really should start thinking about how are we going to employ all those people that are unemployed, because if we can figure that out, that's going to be a gold mine. So I think that's what this one is. So first one is create sustainable human-centric job platforms, focus on jobs that AI can't replace. I wonder why. And the second one is build tools for independent business owners. So yeah, this is it. People are going to get their jobs completely wiped out from AI. And so companies that can figure out ways to employ people where AI is just never going to take over, or maybe not never, but really won't have a huge impact, at least not for a very long time, there's going to be money to be made there. So this list is so important with what the future of IT is going to look like, that it really gives you a peek as to where we're going to be in just about the next 2 to 3 years. These companies, this is like you know how you have like the request for papers and all that kind of fun stuff? This is a request for businesses. This is Y Combinator and their investors guaranteed behind it saying, hey, this is the stuff where we see the world is going. We want to find the super smart people that can figure out the problems, figure out the solutions to these problems, and we want to put millions and billions of dollars behind it as quick as possible and capitalize on it and be the first one to market. So if you have an idea on how to solve any of these problems, and I mean idea, and you think you can possibly build out some type of a MVP or a proof of concept prototype on how to do this stuff, well, put your pitch together, get yourself to Y Combinator and get some money behind you, because you may be the next unicorn. So hope you guys enjoy this. We'll post a list online. If you have any questions, hit me up in the comments as always, and I'll see you guys around. Later. Nidus has just created the first iOS app made exclusively for identity management professionals. It's called Nidus Breachcast, and you can download it now. It's amazing. We have real-time updates of all the latest breaches that are occurring, CVEs as they come out real-time, really pertaining just to identity management. We have media that's going on this podcast. We're going to be bringing in a lot more others as well. And we even have a complete vendor list of all the identity management vendors and all their products, so you can find out exactly where to download their software, all the documentation. And what's even more awesome is an identity management glossary. All those crazy words and acronyms that we can never remember, they're all listed in there for you. No ads, just pure information to make your life simple.